Hello everyone. We have a game with the black pieces against Mohammad Reza. He opens up with e3, which is not an opening, a real opening. So I'm just going to go e5 and I'm out of theory completely. He puts another pawn here, probably wants to take in the center. Put a pawn in the center. So I'm just going to occupy the whole center with both my pawns. And now he plays b4, which is a weird move. Not developing a piece. I'm not sure what he's getting at. Maybe he wants to be ready to kick a knight. Perhaps. I'm just going to develop my king's knight. He now plays another pawn move. h3. Covering the square for my pieces. We can continue development. Or fight for the center further. Maybe with a pawn move. Let's fight for the center further. And this will give us more powerful development in the future. So he just supports it, making more pawn moves. This guy's definitely going to lose. So what do we want to do? You have weird options of even pushing past with one of your pawns, so that if he ever does play d4, you can en passant it. It's interesting. Do we want to do that? How does he get his pieces out? It's a bit odd. I don't want to waste time doing that, so what else is there? Let's just continue developing, and then we can castle. There's many different moves you can play. And let's see what this 1501 does. Mr. Mohammad Reza. Why is he thinking? He made a bunch of random pawn moves. Now he's like, you know what? I think it's time to put in some serious thought. It's weird. Meanwhile, we have 3 pawns in the center, a bishop, a knight, ready to castle, and he hasn't even played with any of his pieces, so and if he can get to 1500, you can get to 1500. I wonder what he's thinking about though. Takes, takes, push. Takes. Bishop back. That's all fine. It's all playable for both sides. Also takes, push, just bishop back right away probably. c4. Takes. Takes. Why are they spending so much time on this move? They can do anything. Just play d4. It's a bit weird. They played every other move almost instantly. Now they're throwing this random check. So now that they can't push the pawn and kick a knight, I'm going to finally develop my knight. That's why I was waiting. I didn't want it to be kicked. Now he probably went to grab a snack or something, because now he's back to insta moving. There's no threat, so let me kick this bishop. He says he's not going to trade, but this gives us the opportunity to gain space for free. And now we have far advanced pawns. So he goes this way. Whenever we have an opportunity to kick a knight, we should look at it. It doesn't have any good central squares, so let's do that. It also blocks the bishop. All of his pieces are completely stifled. His knight goes back here. What do we want to do now? There's a lot of different options. We can try to bind the position maybe even with c4. Just trying to say you're never going to develop again. He tries to break out. Develop the bishop or something. He takes. I mean, there's castling. There's a move like queen c7 threatening the knight. What about central moves like this? Do they do anything? Well, I'm threatening to push, so he kind of has to take. Opens up a diagonal for the bishop, unfortunately. Yeah, I don't really want to open things up. He has two bishops, so let's keep it locked down. Let's lock the structure and bind him as much as possible. So he just castles. He doesn't even try to break out immediately. So we could castle and keep it simple. If we attack his knight, he's likely to move it. Takes. Maybe we can cause him further problems with h5 first. His knight has nowhere to go, nowhere to reroute. I don't see a need to castle. I mean, the center's locked, his pieces are stuck, he can't get to my king. So I'm thinking h5 is interesting, followed by queen c7. So let's go h5. So now he tries to break the bind down with f3. This weakens the dark squares. It attacks the center, but the center is defended, so I can even take this way, so it's not a problem. We definitely don't want to take, of course. If we sack our bishop, we're not quite ready. The thing is, once I went queen c7 and hit his knight, one of his only defensive options was to play g3, blocking the diagonal, but that was only when his pawn was back. Now that he pushed his pawn, he can't even really play g3. So what does he do when I play queen c7? Then he kind of has to go here. But then his pieces never get out, and I can play that as a positional bind. So he does do this, but because of all the space we've gained and our possibility of us playing h4, it's like we're just winning on all sides of the board, and we can just slowly strangle him to death, and he has nothing to do about it, really. Okay, now that he blocked this diagonal, when we're going to play a positional game, let's put our pawn here. And do we want to free his knight? I think we do kind of want to free his knight, because if we don't, then he plays h4. And I want to get this positional stranglehold with the far advanced pawns. So now he moves his rook, which doesn't do anything. And now I think it's time to try to take advantage of the weakened dark squares. So he goes here. Interesting. I kind of want to get my queen over to the g file. If I go here, here, his rook has to go somewhere. And then my pawn is a little bit... Do I care? Okay, let's just leave that like that and get more pieces in the game. How do I get my queen to the g file? Yeah, let's just transfer it over manually. I mean, it takes a couple moves, but we have the time since Like, what's he gonna do? He can't even move anything. That's 14 points of material that can't move. He has to play a4 at some point, like now. Queen here. Then if I go in here, I can maybe double stack on the H file and sack my bishop. That is not a developing move. Okay. So now that he wasted time doing nothing, let's continue improving the queen. He finally plays it. I'm just going to spend one turn going over so that once he takes, which he definitely will, his rook can't even trade for mine and it has nowhere to go. It's still stuck as if there's a pawn there even though there's no pawn there. So, and my rook can always rook lift in the future. So you could have traded rooks and you would have been fine, but you can also do this. So now he tries to break out of his cage this way, but it's not threatening the pawn, so it's a bit weird. So I'm just going to ignore him. I'm running a little low on time though. I should probably move a bit faster. So we're going to aim at the king. Finally we get our queen over to the king side. We're threatening to take this pawn. And white just doesn't have room to maneuver. We can maybe lift this rook. Double stack once we get rid of this pawn off this H file. So how does he stop this? Maybe move the king. But then I'll definitely go here and maybe crash through on the H file. You can see how this doesn't do anything, and this is how you use space. This is the whole point of space. If you take away squares in your opponent's camp, they'll have less squares to use, and they resign. See? Nice and easy. I don't even have to worry about my time. So it's just because you don't have any moves. But that's what happens. He made a bunch of ridiculous pawn moves at the start and let me take the center. And I mentioned in my other videos that once you have a pawn presence, if they're late to the game challenging you, you can then push past gaining space. That is what happened here. So let's take a look at the game. Center and development. Center and development. Development and center. And I would already rather be black, because what is white doing? Center and development. Development and center. Force move, development and center. And I mean, just look at our position with these 3 pawns, 2 knights, a bishop ready to castle. Just the most simple moves you can make. And, you know, black just has a preferable position. Improving move for free, trying to force the issue. Either give us your bishop, which we would happily enjoy the trade, or if he goes back, he's going to give us a bunch of tempi on the light squares, and it's going to be really bad for him. So I feel like he should have traded, even though it's good for us, because by doing what he did, we just get to create that bind. So the computer says the bind was stronger if you play c5 first. Oh, because my way he has the intermezzo b takes c option, which hits counterattacks your bishop. And then when he moves his bishop somewhere, you don't have the ability to play c4. So although your position is still really good, you're not going to have as many pawns like I did in the game. And like when I have that many pawns, he can't break it down. If I only have one pawn here and no pawn on on c4, he might be able to break out. So that's why the computer thinks it's even stronger to include c5, which makes sense because his bishop's still not going anywhere, and you can play b5 next. So we play b5, improving move for free. And of course you have options here, but I like the move we made, which was improving move for free, anti-development for him, anti-development for the bishop, for the d pawn, and all of his pieces. It's absolutely terrible, and even though I'm not up anything, it's minus 2.4. So black has a completely winning position, and we didn't do anything but establish a pawn presence in the center and develop our pieces. Now we solidify our bind, improving move, and anti-development for him. It just completely cuts off his whole army. Other options are, as mentioned, queen c7. I was looking at breaking in the center, but I feel like that just gives him a much easier game for no reason. And then there's, of course, taking the knight, so he loses castling. You could follow it up with the queen development. But none of these make as much human sense as c4, which really just says, okay, I'm definitely going to win the game. It gives white nothing and it takes away everything. So it's -4 here. Hey, it likes my move. Okay, one of many moves. Again, queen c7 makes sense to me. h5 makes sense to me. They also mentioned g5. Oh yeah, you could break takes. I mean, you're still gonna need h5 at some point. I like h5 more than the others. So it likes our move. We're -4, and then we develop for free. Improve our position, gaining space with an additional bind so that if you ever tried to break out, you just en passant and your rook is fully open with superpower. So we improve a piece. Improve a piece. I wonder what the computer thinks. You can probably make a lot of moves. Okay, so it does list the queen over. It does want it to get it in. I'm just wondering. Okay, we keep moving it in. Prophylaxis against his idea. It's not the end of the world if takes and let's say he trades and you recapture with the bishop or something. But ideally we want the bishop on this diagonal, and I'd rather his rook be useless and mine be semi-useful. Force move. Improving move for free because it threatens the pawn, and he just resigns. So really nice game, super positional. That eventually would lead to an attack, right? Which is about to start around here, or maybe in a couple of moves from here, but that's why he just resigns. He knows what's coming. Even if you can defend this threat, my knight's coming in, my g-pawn's going to come up the board, and he has nothing to play for. So hopefully this helps you play no theory games when you just play at the center. Good luck in your chess, and I'll see you in the next video.